Hey, everybody, it is Trags Mike Petralia back with the latest installment of the Jungle Roar podcast, powered by our good friends at the Game Time app and, of course, Prize Picks. Don't forget, of course, you can follow along on CLNS Media and download all of their podcasts wherever popular podcasts are available. My pleasure to welcome in this week as we get ready finally for preseason game number one, Geoff Hobson of Bengals.com. He has been covering the Bengals for decades now and is looking forward to covering these 2024 Cincinnati Bengals. Storylines aplenty as we move into the preseason opener. Butch, I guess we'll start, first of all, with Joe Burrow and the starters. Looks like, fingers crossed, we're going to get our first preseason look at Joe Burrow since 2021 when he played only 3 snaps against the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, Trags, thanks for having me on.
Sure.
This has been a rare training camp of first. You get Joe Burrow going in from July to August for the first time ever in his 5 seasons. I mean, COVID basically truncated camp. Coming back from a rehab in 21. Sickness and injuries prevented him from going in 22 and 23. So for the first time, we're going to see him in a preseason opener after, hitting all the practices. So it's going to be it's going to be interesting to see how far these guys are ahead. How much farther this offense is ahead. I mean, everybody's talked about it ad nauseum. They got to get out of the gate fast, and this fits right into the to the plan they were hoping to execute.
Every question that I've heard about Joe Burrow starts with this: how does the wrist look? How does the wrist look?
Yeah.
And from everything that I can judge in practice, Butch, over the middle, it looks very strong. He's been accurate, pretty much on time, good velocity behind the throw. The only times I notice the ball wobbling a bit is outside the numbers. Sometimes he throws a go ball. He puts a little bit more air under it than I'm used to seeing, but still fairly accurate. From your observations of the way Joe Burrow is throwing the ball in camp, how does he look?
I think, pretty much the same thing. I think probably the reason why maybe the go ball is kind of, it floats a little bit now and then. I just don't think he's thrown many. I think they're really trying to manage him. I mean, I saw enough from those back-to-back throws the other day to Charlie Jones and Ched Jackson. I'm all in now. That's all really we hadn't seen, But I think you also got to remember too, Trags, he's not throwing to Jamar and T. I mean, he's not throwing to T that much. He hasn't thrown to Jamar yet. So he's and this is, he's throwing to guys who have looked very good. But I mean, it's not probably not what he's going to be, seeing every week here, starting against the Patriots in September. But I think, he's certainly been thrown to a stable that is, I think, deeper than people thought when after Tyler Boyd left.
Jamar, you bring it up, and we got to address it at least a little bit here. He's not going to play Saturday in the preseason opener, obviously. At what point do you think the Bengals and Zach Taylor and offensive coordinator Dan Picture get a little antsy to see him back on the field? Is it right before the regular season opener? Is it sometime before that? Would they like him on the field maybe a week or two before the regular season opens September 8th against New England? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm not sure what they're thinking. I think the fact that he's obviously in great shape. I mean, these guys are in shape all year round. So, and you certainly don't have to worry about the timing with him and Burrow.
Burrow said, not to interrupt you, Butch, but Burrow said last week that maybe one practice is all he needs. Get into some individual drills, and Jamar will be good to go because, like you just said, he's in exceptional physical shape.
Personally, I'd like to see more than a week because I lived this in 2008 with Chad Johnson and TJ Houshmandzadeh, and they didn't practice until the week before the first game, and they never really recovered. There was just no timing. There wasn't any. That's a different situation though. I think because it's a different situation because obviously Joe and Jamar got something special. But, Carson had been timed up with Chad and TJ, and they obviously needed more than a week. So, but I'm sure they can, he doesn't need much more than that, though. That's for sure. I wouldn't be surprised. Jamar knows better than anybody, I think. And ultimately, he wants to have as good a year as he can. And he wants the ring. And so I think that, especially with it being down in New Orleans, I know that's an incentive. That's his hometown, the Super Bowl is. So I know he's fired up about that. So I think Jamar knows better than anybody when he needs to get back out there. So, I think they've probably already been discussed. They've probably already got a date, I would imagine.
And Zach Taylor has told us on numerous occasions already in camp, they have a plan and they're sticking to that plan. They're just not revealing the details of that plan. I cannot, in my own mind, imagine a scenario where Jamar sits out regular season games. I talk to other people and they're like, well, if he doesn't sit out regular season games, what was this all about in the first place? While I see that point, to the point you just made, Butch, I think there's too much at stake this year for Jamar, not only professionally and earning the next huge contract among NFL wide receivers, but the emotional appeal of going to New Orleans and playing in a Super Bowl down there, that matters to Jamar. And I think that's going to eventually factor in to him saying, okay, screw it. I made my point, which is really what this is all about. Let's get on with the season.
Yeah, hard for me to see Jamar not playing. I mean, if he's able to, right. That's just the kind of competitor that he is. And like I said, I think the whole lot of talk, a lot of buzz. You've heard it, Trags. We've heard it really since the day the season ended. Got to get out. Teddy Karras has been talking about it. You can't go 0-2. Can't go 0-2. That's been a theme. And I think Jamar lived that slow start. The last 2 years, he knows all about that. So I think that's an incentive too.
What about the young receivers? What have you seen from them? Second-year receivers, Andre Yoshavash, looks like he could get some time in the slot as Tyler Boyd's no longer here. He's in Tennessee with Brian Callahan. So Yoshi could be in the slot. We could see Mike Gesicki, who's missing a little bit of time right now with some type of tightness he's going through, not a big concern. We also could see Charlie Jones there, but odds-on favorite, probably Trent Irwin is going to be the third receiver to start the season.
I think we're going to see them all. I think it's going to be by committee. I think you're going to. Unless first quarter of the year, halfway through the year, somebody steps up and is clearly a slot guy. But I think until then, I think all the guys you just mentioned, we're going to see in there. And I think you could probably throw in Chase Brown, too, the running back. So,
see, I'll tell you, that's not a name I hear a lot in that role, but it makes a ton of sense given his speed, his explosiveness, and how much he's worked on his pass catching game as a running back.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see a steady diet of that. I think we'll see it here and there, and that's where I think we'll see the other guy. Tanner Hudson is a guy that I can see getting some reps in a slot. So I think the thing is to me, it looks like the thing is going to be by committee. It's going to depend on the opponent. I hate to sound like Pitch, because Pitch will say this tomorrow after practice probably. He'll say, and he's been saying it all off season, it's going to depend on the opponent. It's going to depend on the down and distance, So I think that's what they pride this offense in is, a lot of offenses pride themselves on hanging their hat on something. What the Bengals hang their hat on is their versatility. So I think, one third down, you might see Gesicki in there. The next third down, you might see Yoshi line up on the outside and then go in motion in the slot. So I just think it's going to be, like I said, I think it'll be by committee. But what if you go for 3 weeks and, Yoshi's playing like he is now? Then maybe you promote him, but also maybe the versatility keeps defense is kind of maybe on it, kind of flat-footed a little bit. So I think it'll be interesting. I really do. I think it's going to be interesting to see how Pitch and Zach handle the slot, because Tyler did it so well for so long.
How have you seen Jermaine Burton, the rookie out of Alabama, third-round pick, come along?
He's a guy we didn't mention. He's another guy that can play in the slot because he did a little bit of Alabama. I mean, he's got I think he came up with I think it was an ankle. He tweaked a little bit.
Yeah, tweaked the left ankle.
And he was looked at, I think he's still trying to get back into it. I mean, he can run. There's no question he can run. And I like what Pitcher said when I talked to him in the spring. He said he's got violent hands, which I thought was a good. Yes. You don't really hear that, but then when you watch him play, he's got strong hands. He's got good hands.
He snatches the ball out of the air.
Yeah, he got strong hands and he can run. So I think he's got. You do those two things, I think Burrow's going to find you. Now it's going to be. Now I think it's going to be a mental game for him. The route running, timing, and learning the offense and.
Does Burrow trust him to be in the right spot? To me, with any rookie, and any rookie receiver or skill position, that's what Joe Burrow has to determine. This guy is obviously very new to our system. He's very young. Will he be there in the fourth quarter, 3rd and 8 when I need him to be?
Yeah, and you don't know, and you're not going to know. And we didn't know that about Boyd until probably the seminal 4th down throw against the Ravens.
Right.
At the end of the 2017 season. But that's right. But we know we can already get a whiff of who Burrow trusts when you watch practice. I mean, clearly got a lot of faith in Tanner Hudson. Obviously, he fires it up there. You can see he's got a lot of trust in Yoshi because he's giving him some balls that kind of some go-get-it balls. Shed Jackson's a guy that he likes too. So when Burrow trusts you. So because he goes to you. So I'm not I'm sure Jermaine will earn his trust at some point.
Mike Petraglia, Trags here, host of the Code Reds and Jungle Roar podcasts on CLNS Media. Want to tell you about Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch those winnings roll in. Get in on the daily action with your friends and become part of the Prize Picks community today. I made my first $10 deposit and received an instant $10 bonus. If you have the skills, you can play for a shot at turning your $10 into $1,000. Download the Prize Picks app today and use that code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code CLNS on Prize Picks for a deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. All right, on the defensive side of the ball, rough news. Cam Sample out for the season, torn Achilles. That happened last week in practice. And now it's time for others to step forward, namely Joseph Ossai. He spoke at length after Monday's practice, and I thought it was very interesting that a couple of things. First of all, he said yes when Paul Dehner Jr. asked him. I did change my off-season workout, and then Paul followed up, why did you change your off-season workout? Trey Hendrickson encouraged me to stay in Cincinnati, and work with the staff on the Bengals to get more ready for the season. I think Joseph Ossai is more than aware that this is a make-or-break year for him in terms of trying to earn that second big contract, whatever that number financially is. He's trying to earn that second big contract in the NFL after his rookie deal. And this is a season where Joseph Ossai can legitimately be a difference maker for the Bengals with someone like Cam Sample out for the year.
Yeah, I actually talked to Joseph about that back in March, and we talked about why he was there. And it was Hendrickson, and Hendrickson advised him that he would be focused.
Sorry, I did not give you your full credit.
No, it's okay. No, I was just saying. I was just going kind of reviewing what he told me. Kind of in my head was Joey Bose, the strength coach. Hendrickson has a great relationship with him, and he thought just being focused here I didn't mean to blow my own horn. Sorry about that. But I think
no.
The key thing I got out of it was
Yep.
he watched Hendrickson get 17 and a half sacks in that offseason regimen. So he said, I'm going to go for it. And you're exactly right, Trags. I mean, there's no bigger year for a guy than the fourth year. And do you get the second contract? Do you become a journeyman? Are you working on 1-year contracts for the next 3 years? Do you get some security? I mean, we all love Osai. He's such a hard worker, and he's had horrible luck. I mean, this guy almost, I think I said it yesterday, it's almost a supernatural streak of bad luck, you know? I mean, he laughed. I asked him, what comes to your mind when I ask you about a preseason opener against Tampa Bay? Well, that's where he got hurt, and he had that great, 7 pressures and 23 snaps before he got hurt, and and that's kind of defined the rest of his career. But I don't know, Trags. What do you think? I think he's had a pretty good camp. He certainly had.
I think he's right. Well, one other thing that I did not mention a couple of minutes ago was the practice he had on Monday. He had back-to-back sticks of Zach Moss, one of which was for a safety in negative red zone, where the offense is working below the 20-yard line, actually below the 10-yard line, up against their own goal line. And Osai was aggressive there. He made back-to-back tackles. He he dropped off and made a nice read and caught Charlie Jones, thumped him pretty good. You're not allowed to fully tackle, but thumped him pretty good. He also had another pass batted down, I believe, in 11-on-11s. He is showing up to me in training camp so far like a guy that wants to break out, like a guy who's conditioned in the offseason, has conditioned his body to be ready for the long haul. And assuming he does not get injured, I think he's set up for a pretty big year.
He also made a nice pass rush off the edge and forced Burrow out of the pocket into an incompletion, which I think is his bread and butter. I mean, I think he can get to the quarterback, and and if you can get to the quarterback, you're going to play. And
yep. Great
and it's ironic that Hendrickson's injury has given him this, and I think he's really getting into a groove here. And we've just never seen Joseph Ossai. We've either seen him rehabbing or coming off an injury or hurt. So knock on wood, this is as healthy as we've seen him. So I think because remember last year he looked good, I thought, in the preseason. Then he hurt his ankle like late in the preseason.
Preseason, yeah, he did. In the final game, if I recall, that was in Washington, where he tweaked his ankle pretty good.
Right, and it might have been his last snap. He might have been like, that was going to be it, right? And it was so this guy, I'm telling you, if he gets to the opener, the guy's a
difference maker, Butch. There's no doubt about that.
I mean, we talk about, he gets labeled with that guy. Listen, I'm an old school guy. He had to try to tackle Patrick Mahomes on that last play. But people forget how effective he was.
He had a terrific game up until that point.
He had a terrific final 6 games, and he was playing with a torn labrum. The play before the Mahomes play, he forces him into an incompletion. He splits 2 guys. So I mean, I'm telling you, the guy's if you can get 14, 15 games out of him, I think to me he's a 6 to 8 sack guy.
Can he play inside? Do you think they are tempted, given we don't know what's going to happen with McKinley Jackson yet? He left the practice on Monday early, but would Lou Anarumo be tempted to use Osai inside to give a bookend plus look to their pass rush?
Well, again, back to 2022, the first series against Buffalo in the divisional up in Buffalo, he goes inside and he rushes Allen into incompletion, which I think kind of set the tone for that game. That was an inside rush. They need somebody because Cam Sample was such a, I'm telling you, that you never, very valued guy.
Because he did so many things.
Right. Yep. Stout against the run on the edge, could give you an inside rush. Who's that guy now? That's now is probably going to be by committee. A guy we haven't talked about, and he's a rookie, and he's really grinding to make that, because he's going to have to show he can play on special teams. But Cedric Johnson is a guy I think who's might be a beneficiary of that injury.
So I asked Zach about him,
Yeah,
as you know. I asked him about Cedric Johnson on Monday, and he gave a nice kind of classic coach-esque answer about what he as a rookie is trying to prove. Consistency. He'll make one good play and then maybe make a not so good play, or get beat on another snap. And I think what Zach Taylor and more specifically Lou Anarumo are looking for is when a rookie comes into that spot, like Myles Murphy did last year, do they physically hold their own? Because with a defensive end, you can get mauled by offensive tackles in the NFL. Can a defensive end get in there and make a rush, make an impact? And I think that's what I've seen from Myles Murphy a little bit more this training camp, and we'll see as preseason games go on. But can Cedric Johnson be that guy, the defensive end out of Ole Miss?
Yeah, the thing that Johnson brings to him, and of course, obviously, we're talking about maybe the last spot on the roster. Yeah, but he would play, I think, because of his speed. I mean, this is a guy very athletic. I was talking to Trey Brown about him, the Bengals senior personnel executive who scouts that part of the country pretty hard, and they thought that his athleticism at the combine. I mean, this guy was in the top 3 in vertical jump, in the top 10, and he breaks 4.7 in the 40. Very athletic, but he also brings to the table. He's a guy that played a lot of different spots at Ole Miss. I mean, he played in a 2-point stance his senior year. So he stood up. He was a hybrid linebacker, defensive end, and he also, a couple of days ago, he had a really good rush over the center. So, he does kind of fits the template, but, obviously he's a rookie. You can't ask him to do what Cam Sample, can do. I mean, Cam Sample was in his 4th season, averaging about 400 snaps a year. So, but I think that the template of that thing is Cedric is, and he's got to beef up a little bit too, because Sample was, like I said, was really good on the run against the edge.
They draft, Butch, not to interrupt you, but I think they draft athleticism before they draft size. And that may seem like a truism. That may seem, cliche to say, but you've got to get the athlete first. And if they see potential in an athlete and their fundamental, their playmaking ability is there in college, they can work on making them NFL ready, meaning, get them bigger like Myles Murphy worked on in the offseason. My big concern about the defense coming in, based on what I've seen so far, is over the nose. I don't know if they can stop the run. I don't know if Chris Jenkins, as athletically freaky as he is, and we've seen all the, films on social media, as athletically gifted as Chris Jenkins is, and now with the loss of McKinley Jackson, they do have B.J. Hill. They do have Sheldon Rankins. Is that going to be enough?
I think I was talking to Wilson and Pratt yesterday, Logan Wilson and Jermaine Pratt yesterday, and I think they feel like it begins with them. The stop and the run begins with them. I think they feel like Logan said that, in the games that we didn't play well, the defense didn't play well. So maybe it starts there. And the way Logan and Jermaine are playing, I mean, they're playing well. I mean, that Logan and
nobody talked about the linebackers, Butch. On this team, nobody talks about the linebackers much.
No. I mean, well, remember we wrote that after San Francisco? They totally outplayed those two guys, and they were supposed to be the best tandem, the Niners tandem, and Pratt and Wilson totally outplayed them that day. But I think they're looking for more consistency by getting back to the run and that. And I think one of the reasons that drill was so that the defense was so good in that drill, that move it out, backed up drill, and they were good. I mean, they just stoned that offense. Offense couldn't run the ball, and a big reason was Pratt and Wilson were playing downhill. They were, so that's part. Yes, they've got to. But remember, they didn't, they didn't have good numbers against the run last year. So, they're different now. Obviously, it's different personnel, but I do think they're more urgent. So I don't know, but obviously they need bulk in there. Is Jenkins the answer? Who knows? How long is Jackson out for? Who knows? So, yeah, I would say that's obviously – but that was a big question coming in anyway, and we're not going to know – we're probably not going to know that until, when the Patriots come in and try to run it to protect their rookie quarterback.
Yeah, no, I think that's an excellent point. They're going to – the Patriots have a boatload of issues along the offensive line, but they are going to try to run at the Bengals and see if they can stop Ramondre Stevenson, who I believe, if I'm not mistaken, did sign a contract extension in the offseason with New England. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out. Mike Petraglia, Trags here, host of the Code Reds and Jungle World podcasts on CLNS Media. Got to tell you, one of my very favorite memories as a kid growing up in Cincinnati was taking in a Reds game with my dad, downtown Cincinnati, Riverfront Stadium, big red machine, mid-70s, nothing quite like it. Now I get the chance to take my two daughters to a Reds game at Great American Ballpark. And when I'm scoping out tickets, there's no better app to use than the Game Time app. It's an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch, with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, and something I'm particularly fond of, views from your seat. And their lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. There's last-minute deals, too. Save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, and theater. Taking the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time is what they're all about. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Offensive line for the Bengals. The position of focus in the offseason, without question, has been the offensive right tackle. And what's interesting to me is Amarius Mims and how he's looked so far at right tackle, a rookie, first-round pick, getting the reps. Trent Brown finally got cleared off NFI. Didn't want to get into the particulars after practice on Monday as to why he was on NFI, but he did pass his physical Monday. He was out at practice, only participating in individual drills. Butch, when I ask you, your starting right tackle September 8th against the Patriots, who's it likely going to be? What do you say?
Boy, I tell you, hard not. I mean, Mims has looked good. The first-round pick has looked good. You've also got a guy in Trent Brown who's one of the most reliable pass protectors at that spot in the last decade. I mean, people have written many things about Trent Brown, but what keeps coming back is that the guy protects the passer. So, that is a classic. I mean, is it a classic quandary or is it just a known brainer? You got to put Mims in because people are saying, listen, this guy's a can't miss,
He's the closest thing they've had in that first round at that position since Anthony Munoz, and Munoz obviously a left tackle, but still the point being he could turn into Anthony or something assimilating Anthony Munoz, couldn't he?
Well, I'll go with Willie Anderson in '96.
Okay, yeah, that.
But your point is well taken, Trags. I mean, there's going to be there are going to be voices inside the building saying, "Look, you got to play this guy." Now what does that? Do you pass over a 10-year veteran that you signed? I mean, you get him out there in the opener. I mean, how does it respond? You got to get off. You got to get off to a quick start, right? Can you take rookie mistakes in the first 2 weeks, or do you go with the veteran? So to me, it's the classic quandary, But to me, I'm glad. I guess I'm glad I don't have to make the decision. But I think these things usually work out. Usually something happens that figures it. That something happens.
Right.
Will Trent be able to get? Will Trent hold up? Will Mims? Will Will stuff, will Mims have trouble when he gets into games? I doubt it, but who knows? I still think it's to be played out. But I think, no doubt about it, they made a hell of a draft pick. They picked that guy. I mean, like Duke Tobin said, he walks into the building, and that's what the number 3, number 4, number 5 pick in the draft is supposed to look like. So, a lot like Munoz, Trags, in the sense that they didn't play much this senior year in college. Actually, I mean, Mims didn't play much at all, at all his career, and Anthony didn't play, had the injury his senior year, but it was still, they weren't, Anthony probably would have gone number 1 if he played his senior year.
He went 3, right?
Right, he went 3, right. Yeah. And if Mims had played, my God, he would have been gone. He would have been the first tackle taken, probably.
I mean, what I'm thinking of just popped into my mind, Penei Sewell. There was that big argument back in 2021, Jamar Chase, Penei Sewell. Who do you go with? And now, if everything pans out the way the Bengals hope, you get Jamar in 2021. Ironically, he's going through a contractual situation now. But if you sign him long term, and then you get Amarius Mims, and he turns into what the Bengals think he's going to be, you eventually get both. And that's probably the best of both worlds.
The thing I like about Mims is how he is as a guy. Just a really solid.
Always a smile on his face.
Solid individual. Great personality. I thought he gave me one of the quotes of the week when I asked him what was his favorite thing about the locker, because Trags, you've seen those new lockers. They might as well be, they're a spaceship, right? And he said, "Oh no," he goes, "the best thing about it is I'm between Orlando Brown Jr. and Cordell Volson," which is he's 21 years old. That's a hell of an answer for a 21-year-old kid.
That is a terrific answer. I'm going to finish up on this note. The kicking game, Mr. Consistent and Mr. Clutch, if you ask me. Yeah. And that's coming from a guy who watched Adam Vinatieri kick at the start of his career. Evan McPherson was asked Monday, after Monday's practice, about the new 4-year, $25.6 million extension for Harrison Butker in Kansas City, including, I believe the number is $17.75 million guaranteed. How does it impact Evan? And cool as a cucumber, said, doesn't really impact me because I just got to keep going out there and do what I do, and the numbers will take care of itself. And he said it so matter-of-factly that you can't help but believe him.
I mean, that's how he kicks. That's how he approaches it. It seems like, who would you rather have over a 52-yarder to win it, Vinatieri or McPherson, Trags?
I would say McPherson, just because McPherson has a bigger leg. That would be my answer to that. But it's a close call. But
he's got
McPherson has shown me enough. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying he's got Vinatieri's cool, I think.
Oh, no question. I mean, Vinatieri has the biggest clutch kick in NFL history to force a tie game in the Snow Bowl against the Raiders after the Tuck rule call. That was one of the best kicks I have ever seen. It's the most clutch kick I've ever seen.
Right.
And with McPherson, I wrote about it on Tuesday morning on CLNSCincy.com. He's had so many moments where it looks like we're going to the AFC Championship, the famous kick against the Titans at the end of that game. He obviously had the overtime kick to send the Bengals to the Super Bowl. And, I think in looking at Harrison Butker's deal, I think Evan McPherson, while he certainly respects Butker and respects a guy like Justin Tucker in Baltimore, he feels he's in that same class.
Well, I tell you what, he's kicked the most 50-yarders since anybody since he came into the league, I think, or was tied for the most, I think. This guy, he does it from all. He's such a weapon because you just got to make a couple plays, right? If you're, if you need a tie or a win, and Burrow's going to get you past the 50,
right?
That's about all you need, right? I guess depending on the weather or where you're playing, but this guy, here's another guy. The numbers are terrific, but just look at him as a guy. He's just so solid. And cool, and there's never any drama with the guy. You know what I mean? He just shows up, and he's there. I mean, I think maybe his biggest kick. Well, you can't. I mean, the kick to put him in the Super Bowl doesn't get any bigger than that. But opening day, his first NFL game, was.
And he made reference to that. Yes.
Yeah, he had a walk-off. That's right. He did talk about that. Right. He had a walk-off, and I think back, to the Jacksonville game last year on Monday night. They're still in the hunt. He won that game in overtime, but the 48-yarder before that in the fourth quarter, just huge. Just absolutely had to have it. I mean, I know he talks about his pulse, but he got it. But I don't think he has any pulse. I think. I mean, he might be a 21st century.
I love athletes, Butch, who can slow their pulse down in moments like that, where they work on their breathing to slow themselves down for big moments. And a lot of fans think, well, some athletes have it, some don't. Some can handle the big moment, some don't. There are athletes who and I think Evan McPherson's one of these guys who works on his breathing. He actually literally says, okay, here's the situation. Take all of the emotion out of it. What do I have to do?
I mean,
that's a skill in and of itself.
No question. I mean, he looks so calm. I wonder if they're going to administer last rites. I mean, I'd be out of my mind, But he just you said it, cool as a cucumber when he answered the question, about Butker, just like he was lining up for a 52 to walk it off.
I mean, and I think when we approached him, he knew what was going to be when it was a group. It wasn't like one or two reporters, which he sometimes gets in the locker room, just to paint a picture for the audience here. When one or two reporters come over, they're probably working on a feature on Evan McPherson. When a gaggle comes over, Evan's like, oh, I know what they're talking about because Butker just signed or something like that.
Right. And he didn't know. I like what he said. He didn't know, but he was sure somebody was going to tell him.
Right. Does Evan get a deal done? Do you think if you were a betting man, do you think he gets a deal done before opening day?
I look at the Bengals' history. Their top players always get signed before the opener. Look at history. I mean, I've been in barber chairs. I've been in dentist's office. I've been driving down a highway. If it's near Labor Day, a deal is coming. So I just look at history, Yeah,
no, that's a great answer, Butch. I think that's and it was the case with Burrow.
Yeah. I mean, I would say this: don't go anywhere the Saturday before the opener. I mean, I wouldn't. Don't have your cookout that day, Trags.
Yeah, I'm actually not. It would probably be in the middle of it would probably be after practice Wednesday or Thursday. Or it won't be after practice. It may or may not be. The week before the season opener. Because the way the season works, I believe.
Yeah.
You know what? It may even be the Thursday of the season opener, Baltimore at Kansas City. I've got to work out the details.
Oh, very good. Okay, that'd be big.
You're invited. You and the lovely Anita.
Thank you. Yeah.
Deborah Ann and I would love to have you over.
Well, that'd be tremendous. I mean, Anita and I would love to see the new digs.
Well, as I pointed out before we began recording, that is an official NFL patent from May 15th, 1928, of the first official legally licensed professional football helmet. That's what that is. See, everybody?
That's great. How'd you get that? Where'd you get that? I mean,
Deborah Ann found it for me. I don't know what store. There are two other similar whatever pictures that I have yet to hang. One of shoulder pads, and I have another in the corner, and I haven't. It's turned around the wrong way, so I can't make it out.
And we know there's no face mask on that helmet because that didn't happen until
correct. You know who invented it,
right?
Yes.
So now you got to find that one. You got to find that patent to put up there with that helmet.
Yeah, that is because if I remember the story, didn't the quarterback break his jaw?
Yeah, that's right.
and it's a famous quarterback. Was it?
Was it Otto? Was it?
I think it was Otto Graham. Yes.
Otto, okay, he did it with the Browns, right? Because I think the first college player to wear it at a game might have been Pete Brown at Denison, perhaps.
Is that true?
It might. I think it was. I think Pete told me once he wore one.
Wow.
Yeah.
Outstanding. Well, Butch, that's why I love having you on.
Well, I hope the ratings don't take.
No, they won't tank. I'll make sure of that.
Sure
I'll fabricate the ratings. How's that?
Yes.
But by the way, your Carmine Hose, the Red Sox, hanging in there.
They can hit, man. I'm telling you.
Yes.
They've been scoring 8, 9, 10 runs a night. But it's just the
They're both.
I mean, they got to get some of those. They got to get Chris Matton back. I think they got to get Chris Matton, and they got to get Kinley healthy. So make sure he's okay. But he's been able to take like a week. He's
actually had, as you reminded me the other day, he's actually had a great year until the last week.
Right. Correct. Yeah. So I don't know. Like I say, on one hand, I say, do we really care about getting the third wild card? And on the other hand,
Arizona last year.
Yes, let's make the playoff. Let's make the play. I tell you what, Alex Cora, right now, give him manager of the year.
I buy that 100%. 100%.
They get some good young play. I mean, they're better than I thought they were at the beginning of the year. Duran can play.
Romy.
Raffaella can play. I mean, Raffaella's a joy to watch. And Abreu's a terrific hitter. I mean, those three kids. I mean, let's go. Get some pitching. Let's go.
Be interesting to see what happens in the baseball playoffs. I do not think the local 9 here in Cincinnati are headed to the playoffs. I think the Reds are going to finish, Butch, 80-82. I think it's going to be a flip of last year, and they just don't have enough consistency, don't have enough bodies, and I enjoyed watching that Red Sox series, whatever it was in June. Yeah, and the Reds are what they are.
Yeah, that was a well played series. That Saturday game was a nice tight game. Raffy won it with that little sack fly.
Right.
I love it when Raffy goes the other way. I mean, that wasn't the at bat he probably wanted, but I got the run in. But watching him is a joy too, Raffy. I mean, he's such a great hitter.
I remember we had this discussion. Did I wonder, or did I recall correctly? You wondered if he'd ever get the money or was worth the money. He's definitely.
I thought he was worth the money. Would he get it? Because since the John Lester snafu, they haven't paid anybody a thing. So I was worried they were going to let him walk. I mean, remember that was right in the wake of Bogart's leaving.
That's right.
So, but cooler heads prevailed, but. They're going to have to do 2 of those. They got to find another Raffy or 2 in the system, or go get somebody.
Anything you're working on? Anything you're working on before the season or even this weekend?
Well,
on Bengals.com.
Yeah, at some point, got to talk about the 15th anniversary of my favorite Bengals team of all time, the 2009 team. At some point before the season or during the season, we're going to revisit them. So
Cedric Benson Bengals.
Yes, R.I.P. Cedric, but he was the face of that team. I mean, he was what that team was all about, in my opinion. Remember,
I'll never forget that game against the Chicago Bears.
Yeah,
There's never a player who had more to prove against a former team than Cedric Benson did against the Bears that day.
And he, I think it's still the record for the most yards a guy got against his former team, I think.
And really? I did not know that.
I'll have to
212? Something like that?
I think he hit like was it 100 and it might have been 170 or something, 180.
He didn't go over 200?
No, he didn't. No, he never did. The only 2 guys who've gone for 2 bills, only 3 guys. I think Rudy Johnson went for 2 bills once. And Corey did it 3 times, and Brooks did it a couple.
I was going to say James Brooks. I think I recall once.
Yeah, but never said. Although said, I mean, remember that team swept the division. What a They did it with a running game and defense, and
thought they had the Jets beat that year.
Yeah,
I really did. They went up 7-0 in that game. Carson Palmer finally playing in a playoff game.
Yeah.
And I'm like, here we go.
Yeah.
This is going to be what 2005 was supposed to be.
Yeah.
And then
Revis took Chad out of it, and they didn't have anybody else. And Carson struggled a little bit in the win too. He wasn't as accurate. And Cedric carried him that night. I think he ended up with 169. I think. So that was a tough one. Shane Graham missed a couple of field goals.
Yes, I do remember.
That was tough.
All right. He is Geoff Hobson of Bengals.com, does a great job of covering your hometown striped team in the National Football League. Be sure to follow him on Bengals.com. My name is Mike Petraglia. Trags, I want to thank you for downloading and consuming this edition of the Jungle Roar podcast, powered by our good friends at the Game Time app and Prize Picks. And also, as always, a shout out to the great people at CLNS Media who make this podcast possible. Until next week, I should say, keep that jungle roaring.